Twitter has permanently banned conservative blogger Milo Yiannopoulos under its abusive content policy after he sparred with actress Leslie Jones on Twitter this week, while users deluged her account with racist and hateful comments related to her new movie, Ghostbusters. Joining us now to discuss is WSJ Deputy Tech Editor Brian Fitzgerald. Hi, Brian. Great to see you.
Hi.
So now, while Yiannopoulos may have incited some of this trolling, he didn't make the worst comments, correct? How did this all come about?
So, to understand what happened, you have to know the amount of attacks that the people involved in the Ghostbusters reboot have been under for a very long time. There's been a campaign on the internet to really just sort of shout down this movie. We believe it's related to the fact that it is related to the fact that it has an all-female lead cast, and it's wrapped up with a lot of sort of internet culture and geek culture stuff, which is please don't remake this movie.
Right.
And so you fast forward to the events that happened this week, and Miss Jones, Leslie, who was involved in this movie, who's a lead actress, was the center of a bunch of abusive attacks.
It started out with Yiannopoulos making negative comments about the movie, correct? And snowballed into some racist comments directed at Ms. Jones.
That's right.
Is that correct?
That's right.
And so how did Leslie Jones react? We do have actually a couple of her tweets here. She says, "I leave Twitter tonight with tears and a very sad heart. All of this because I did a movie. You can hate the movie, but the bleep I got today, wrong." And then another tweet, she says, "Twitter, I understand you got free speech. I get it, but there has to be some guidelines when you let spread like that." And then how did Twitter respond to her?
Sure. Well, obviously, Leslie is shocked. Sure. And I think that that's fair, and she's certainly not the first person to be on the receiving end of what just seems to be a torrent of some really hateful language.
Right.
And we should be clear, we're not saying that language came necessarily from Mr. Yiannopoulos.
Sure.
And so she was shocked. And I think what she did was she basically said, how can this be happening? How can this stand on a place like Twitter? Twitter, what are you going to do about it? The company, Twitter's been in this position before.
And Twitter did reach out to her personally,
They did, and
correct?
the CEO reached out saying, "Look, I've connected with you on Twitter. Direct message me and let's talk." And they reached out to her.
And that resulted in Yiannopoulos being banned. Now, he's gotten in trouble. He is the tech editor, we should say, of conservative blog Breitbart, correct? He's gotten in some trouble on Twitter before, correct?
Yes. He certainly has run up against the boundaries of their terms of service. He's been suspended in the past. So being straddling that line there is not new.
Now he is. This is somewhat unusual, though, for Twitter to ban a high-profile user, and it is coming under attack a bit regarding free speech.
Sure.
But of course, it does have also a very strident anti-sort of bullying guideline. So it seems like where that line is being drawn is what the debate is over this morning.
Right. So yeah, Twitter has banned permanently people before, and I think a lot of the criticism that Twitter receives is just how they go about applying their rules. And I think a lot of the argument against Twitter is it's hard to tell when they take abuse seriously and when they don't, and who they go after and who they don't. And there's plenty of conversation about free speech wrapped into that, and also pointing out that a platform like Twitter doesn't necessarily have to. There is no free speech on Twitter, right? It's an owned company product, so it's all right.
Absolutely. We should probably just state Twitter's harassment policy, which says you may not incite or engage in the targeted abuse or harassment of others. It certainly seems to be what was happening here in the case of Ms. Jones. So do we know if any of these other tweeters, the ones who are not as high profile as Mr. Yiannopoulos, are being in any way banned or?
Sure. Well, I think you raise a really significant issue for Twitter, and this is what happens, right? Is people ask, well, why is Milo being targeted? What about the people who said the horrible, worst things?
Right.
Well, the issue for Twitter, what you have to understand with this platform is that it's too easy for someone to create an account under an anonymous name, no profile picture, there's no ties to you, and say the worst things possible, having been on the account for all of 3 minutes. So it's a game of whack-a-mole. Twitter can't win.
Sure.
So yes, Twitter does suspend these accounts, but these accounts are kind of like vaporware. People create them, say horrible stuff, and leave.
Yeah. All right. Well, it'll be interesting to see what the fallout from this will be. Brian Fitzgerald, thank you so much for that.